Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's industrial leadership expert in strategy, teaching how specialists, reps, and engineers create a measurable value. And of course, an author too, the author of the book, The 10 Immutable Laws of the Industrial Distribution Specialist, none other than Mr. Carl Lee Tolbert.
Well, hi. Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
Welcome, Mr. Carl, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. I'm Carl Tolbert. I finished a PhD in organizational leadership in 2022. I started this book in 2021, and it's kind of what I've been doing for a career for the last 20 some years. And what it is it's a specialist. It's where it's a subject matter expert. Some people call it application engineers, where we go and help customers figure out, we're the experts to help them figure out applications and solutions. So it's a very specialized field, mostly in industrial distribution and manufacturing.
The immutable distinction. Let's start with the title. Why frame these immutable laws rather than just best practices? What makes them fundamental and unchanging in the industry that is constantly evolving with technology and markets? And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Carl. Thank you for sharing your day.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. Obviously, it was a great introduction. Yeah, so why immutable laws is a great question. It just that so after all these years and my research, so I started researching. I specialize in qualitative research, so I started interviewing all these leaders and all these specialists and all these folks about okay, why um, what specific things about your jobs is explicit. What's unique, and the immutable laws started coming. Basically becoming reinforced over and over again. So what happens with best practices? It's a good idea, but the immutable laws is explicit to like okay, to be successful, you must have these things, and it's really pretty much that simple.
Mr. Carl, the premise suggests a move from a being an order taker to a technical expert. What is the fundamental mindset shift a distribution specialist must take to begin living with these laws?
Yeah. So one of the things is, as a specialist, you also, you're in sales, right? So what happens is, specifically North America, and there's many places around the world that have this. So you have brands like ABB or Dodge or General Electric, for instance, in the industrial space, and they have distributors who service manufacturers. Okay. So the distributors are the local folks, and they have to have these technical experts to kind of solve issues like why a bearing failed, why a motor failed, or I'm doing an expansion and I need an idea how to um, do this expansion and enhance performance and all these things. So these specialists act as those experts. But it's not just a matter of being an expert. You actually have to be able to communicate and to be able to support the customer and sell the customer on your best solution. So it's more than just being an expert. You actually significantly have to be able to express why the solution matters.
Why the solutions matter? Yes, for sure. So, how to pinpoint the single most important law, the one that serves as the foundation for all others? What would it be and why is it non negotiable or non negotiable?
Well, it's the actually the third law, which is the you have to be a specialist and not a generalist. I think the power of expertise is that you do have a singular focus, and you're an expert at that particular thing. Now, in our business, you might be mechanical, you might be electrical or automation or software or fluid power like hydraulics. But the biggest point is that you cannot be a generalist and be successful. You must have that singular focus. And I think in the age of AI, in the age of Google and YouTube, people feel that because they have those crutches, those tools, that they no longer need these specific experts. And I think that is kind of a shallow approach because expertise kind of supersedes all of those specific tools, you know?
Expertise is still expertise. People are so in industry often seen as a commodity game. How do these laws specifically equip a specialist to break the cycle of competing on price alone and instead of compete on value and expertise?
Yeah, so in distribution, there's really two particular paths that distributors can go. They can go on parts and availability, like I have like this part number and it's for this price, and I could get it online with Amazon or all these different places. Or you could go to the world of value add where I understand the reason why this part was chosen and why it particularly failed or how you can improve. So I'm adding value, right? So that's really the difference. One is commodity versus the expertise that changes everything because now it is value added. And that's really a significant difference between the two approaches.
Mr. Carl, let's talk about building technical expertise and customer relationships. One key law must be about mastering technical knowledge. How does a top performing specialist act as a translator, converting a complex product data into a tangible solutions for the customer specific operational problems?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Yeah, so one of the things, it's two laws in the book. The first one is that expertise or experience trumps education. So it's not the fact that you have the greatest education or a degree or you're an engineer. It's just the fact that you have this experience within this industry, and you speak the language. But more importantly, that expertise does have a kind of a lifespan. It has a shelf life. So experts still have to keep learning. Often people believe, well, I have this expertise and I no longer need to sharpen the saw. And I think that's really kind of a two pronged thing. You have the experience, you gain the experience, but you have to maintain that expertise along across a greater time period because it shifts dramatically. Like the advent of AI.
Yes, AI indeed. And proactive problem solving, Mr. Call. How does a specialist move from simply fulfilling a spec sheet to using their expertise to diagnose a customer understated or even unknown problems?
Hmm. Yeah, well, troubleshooting varies, but I think that the most important thing is the experience level of the specialist. It's one of the another reasons that sometimes the engineering folks that come just out of college with a degree that aren't often successful because they have the knowledge and they have to actually apply the knowledge to an application. So I think the first things first is understanding the actual having the experience within that industry. Right now, the approaches to actual troubleshooting or applying, well, that based is really based on your prior experience mostly. I think that's kind of how it correlates.
It correlates. Mr. Carl, and tell us, technical expertise is worthless without trust. Which law addresses how to build a deep trust based relationships where a customer sees you are indispensable consultant rather than just a vendor?
Well, that's awesome. So it really is the relationship, but it's how you build the relationship is showing up. So first of all, the idea of remote support, that we all kind of got used to through COVID, is kind of still it's kind of going away. Getting back to the local proximity to customers, I think that's a huge thing. And by showing up in people's plants and looking at things, you start building that relationship, which builds that trust. And once you start solving a few problems, it starts reestablishing itself. But first things first is you actually have to show up and be there. I think that's a huge thing regarding building trust.
Definitely. And Mr. Carl, a recurring theme is understanding the customer's business or businesses. How deep does this need to go? Is it about knowing the production line, the financial pressures, or the end market?
Well, I think all of it, but I think it begins first understanding really two things. First off is what kind of gain and pain, right? So what is the customer's pain points first, right? And then what actually makes their job easier? What are the gains, right? So that's the traditional value proposition. I think from that regard, all those things you mentioned kind of fit under. But I think finding out really what the customer's job is and what makes it better and relieves a lot of the headaches. I think that's the two key points.
Interesting, Mr. Carl. And how does specialists effectively use these laws to become powerful internal advocate to their customer, ensuring the company's logistics, inventory, and support teams are aligned to deliver exceptional service?
Well, yeah. So the 10 laws were designed primarily as an easy, simple way of understanding the kind of the critical aspects. But I think the overall, it's kind of a mindset, and it's understanding that um, you have to have some measurable ability, like metrics, ability to measure the success. That's the first thing. So you have to have kind of a plan, a way to measure the success, the feedback, right? And then you primarily work from there. The laws themselves are kind of, their guidance of the most successful teams I've seen. So a lot of this was based on real world data and my own research. But collectively, it's often what I found when I interview leaders, the laws become several things were missing. Like, say they were good at two or three things, but the rest of them were invisible. So it's like a complete set is really kind of the most important understanding about the whole overarching amount. That's why it's 10 plus two chapters on kind of multipliers, the relationship with vendors, and then the use of AI is a huge part of this book because it integrates everything now.
The powerful sales technique is a qualifying a cause of a problem. How does loss guide specialists in calculating and presenting the total cost of ownership or the cost of the downtime to justify a premiumized solution?
Well, that's a great question. Often, when I do a lot of training, I kind of look at back in the '80s, there was this car called a Yugo. I don't know if you ever remember that. That's kind of
Hmm.
maybe before your age, but in 1985, you could buy one of these for about $7,000 in the United States, and the problem was it was cheaply made, and if you got into an accident, you would probably die. I mean, there was lots of jokes about it. The Yugo was very humorous. It was a very cheap car, but the point is that often the brand choices you make dictate a lot of that total cost of ownership, right? So the better product is made, the if you're adding value, generally you're going to add the components or the solutions that also have premium components because they're going to last longer. They're going to be reliable. They're going to have the best performance. And I think that specialists kind of push and supersede that, and it goes beyond the traditional "I want the cheapest solution." Right? And it's
Mhm.
being the fact that you've presented it and you're it's personal, it's a relationship. I want you to succeed, and here's the data, and I've been at your plant. You know what I'm saying? So it's a combination of a lot of factors within the 10 laws. But ultimately, it's understanding the value proposition that a customer has, and then what your overarching solution is as an expert to put that best solution in practice.
The best solution for sure. In the age of e commerce, portraits, and AI, how does a human centric or centric loss ensure the specialist remains irreplaceable? What technical expert do that can algorithm cannot?
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So there's a kind of a legal case right now where AI was used in a food plant and they made a $3 million error. Right. And what it was there was no oversight by humans to say this was really a good or bad solution. And this is a real thing. So one of the things specialists do is that AI doesn't replace expertise, but expertise has to supervise AI and provide oversight. I think that's a huge thing, especially in this arena, and the fact that AI is not blameworthy. So you can't blame on AI for failing. It still has to be owned by people, right?
Yes.
Experts and specialists have to be those accountable for AI, but to do that, they have to have oversight.
Mr. Cole, in your observation, which of these 10 laws is the most often ignored or broken by the average performers? And what is the single biggest consequence of that failure?
Awesome. Yeah. So the biggest one is actually the ability to have measurable results, right? So if you have a specialist, often it's just like there's no metrics to determine whether you're successful or not. So what happens is if the economy kind of isn't that great, specialists often become the most expendable because organizations have no way of determining whether they're successful or not. So I think organizations, their biggest challenge, the biggest weakness I see is the ability that they have no ability to measure the success of specialists. And I think if they had that, then actually they would be the most protected group because the return on sales is significant. But they just can't see it; it's invisible.
As a generation of highly experienced specialist retirees, Mr. Carl, how do these laws serve as a framework for capturing and transferring their invaluable tacit knowledge to the next generation?
Well, I think if you treat being a specialist as kind of a system. So the part of it is the one of the laws is basically making yourself irrelevant. And what I mean by that is that if you have all this expertise, you have to actually be able to transfer it as a system to the organization and individuals that are up and coming. So, all specialists have to become mentors. And I think that's another important aspect that's often also overlooked is that a specialist sometimes I've met these people where they feel that they're holding that back because it's almost protecting themselves and but I think that's the wrong approach. And I think that the most successful people make themselves almost irrelevant just because you're sharing all that knowledge and expertise with people that are trying to grow into this business. Because as you say, everybody's aging out for sure, and even myself.
Yes, we are aging people. So, what are the key performance indicators of KPIs for a specialist who has truly mastered these laws? Is it gross profit, customer retention, share of wallet, or something else tangible?
Well, I think the most basic is just activity. So if you have a group of say 30 salesmen in the organization and say 10 specialists, which isn't too bad of a ratio, it's just a matter of the salesman working with the specialist on a regular basis. So it's just the activities that you're measuring. That's really the simplest form. Often organizations don't even have that. But as you mentioned, the share of wallet is a huge, huge thing because that means the customers that I'm working with the most, all of a sudden we're getting a lot more of their spend. And that's really what share of wallet means. It's just that I'm working with these customers. Not only am I getting this bit of their business, but they're giving me more and more because of my solutions, because of my relationship, because of what I'm doing to grow their business. So I think share of wallet is really probably the most important metric for a specialist.
Yeah, share your wallet. And I like that, Mr. Carl. So, to wrap up our discussion for today, for a distribution professional listening who feels stuck in a transactional role, what is the first most immediate step they can take tomorrow to begin applying one of these laws and start their journey toward becoming a true technical expert?
Okay, so for an individual becoming a technical expert, I think the thing is find some coaches, find some technical mentors, and it's effort, right? So it doesn't matter what job you're in right now, you're learning something. So obviously, the old saying of "be the best at what you do." But if you want to grow, find those technical experts, kind of pick their brains, become a mentee, and then start having them work with you, developing a path to something like an expert. So, in our business of industrial distribution, often the specialists come from inside sales, or they come from field service, right? Or they come from outside the organization where they might be in maintenance or engineering for a manufacturer, right? So, but you have to start somewhere, but it does take time because experience actually is really what makes a specialist. It's not anything else, but it really does directly relate to time.
Mr. Carl, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Well, yeah, so the waywardleaders.com, my website, obviously the book location on Amazon, you just kind of search for my name. But my next book is on maintenance retention. Actually, I've done actual research that's under peer review right now. I haven't hasn't been academically published, but it's going to be exciting stuff when I actually get it out to the public.
Yes, and please do come over and let's talk about it on Book 101 Review, Mr. Carl. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Carl Tolbert because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Carl, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Modicon people, see you soon.